Finding and analyzing investment opportunities. That's a great topic. Uh, what are some effective strategies for finding and analyzing potential multifamily investment properties?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, number one thing that you're going to be providing value to is bringing off-market deals to your clients because everybody likes off-market deals. So, how do you find off-market deals? We look at if I'm working in the Dallas Fort Worth market, right? So, or whatever market you are in, you build a relationship with all the sellers in the market, meaning all the property owners, and then when you have a client who wants to buy something, you go to your database and ask people, hey, I have a buyer who's interested in your property. Do you want to sell? Right. And then if they say, yeah, I would maybe sell it for the right offer, then you can connect the buyer and the seller. So that is the best way to provide value. Now, as far as analyzing the property, that is a separate set of skills that you're going to learn when you get into the multifamily business. There is a specific framework and process that we use to analyze the property. And the reason for analyzing the property is to find out what is the right value for the property, right? So it typically requires looking at the rent roll, looking at the market rents, looking at the profit and loss statement for the company, and also creating a pro forma based on what is the business opportunity if somebody were to buy this property, right? So there's a lot of things involved in creating that kind of a value, but that is what you get trained on once you get into the multifamily business.
Right, right. So I'm a new agent. I was a residential agent, or I've been doing residential, and I'm moving to multifamily. In residential, we do CMAs, comparative market analysis, to understand the value of properties. Is multifamily the same, or how do we do it?
No, it's not the same. So multifamily, and for that matter, all commercial income generating properties, we value based on what's called an income capitalization approach. So we look at, if you look at what appraisers do, right? We kind of follow the same. Appraisers will look at the commercial property in three different ways. So one is always going to be the market approach, which is looking at the comps, very similar to what you do on the residential side. Then the next one is the income capitalization approach, or basically looking at income at the property and applying a cap rate to come up with the value. And then the third one is looking at the cost approach. And the cost approach is typically preferred by insurance companies for what is the replacement cost of the property. Now, for a multifamily property, we are going to put a lot of emphasis on the income capitalization approach. And so that is a separate process of doing that. And the way we do that is we look at, what is the potential income at the property, what is the loss at the property, vacancy and turnover and things like that, loss to lease. And then we look at what are the other income and expense recovery opportunities at the property. It's not very difficult, but there is a specific framework and a formula that we use to come up with what is the current income at the property and what is the projected income at the property, and then apply a market cap rate to come up with a value. So that's something that we can provide you with the training on how to do it. It's not very complicated. It's very easy math. But the most important thing is we have so many software out there that can do it for you. Right? As long as you understand the concepts, you don't have to worry about the math. Right? The math is easy, but even though it's easy, you don't have to worry about it because the software can take care of doing all the number crunching and putting it all together for you and your clients.
Right. And I guess there are different types of multifamily investors that are looking for different strategies depending on that financial analysis. Uh, uh, and many investors want opportunities, want to find deals.
Right.
What are those effective strategies for finding and analyzing potential multifamily investment properties?
Yeah, so great question. So every investor is different. So the first thing we as an agent has to figure out is what is a good deal for your investor, right? So one of the questions that we get a lot, and pretty much everybody can agree with me, is the number one question we get as agents is, what do you think? Is this a good deal, right? So that is a very subjective question. A good deal is different for different people, right? So I have somebody who say, I think what we need to do is, if you're an experienced investor, they know what's a good deal for them. They'll tell you, I need 100-unit property. I need buy it at this cap rate, or I need to have this much cash on cash return, or or whatever their criteria is. If you're working with a new investor and they sometimes don't know, right? So our job is to also educate them on how other people make decisions, and then kind of agree on these are the parameters we are going to decide, because we'll be looking at several deals, but these are the criteria that we are looking at to decide if this is a good deal for you. So so you can look at in commercial estate, there is something called a core investor, a core plus, a value add, and an opportunistic investor. So those are 4 different categories of investors. A core investor is somebody, probably a high net worth person, who wants to put maybe 50-60% down on a property. They're looking to buy a very good property in a good neighborhood, good asset, and so forth, right? The opposite of that is, or other end of the spectrum, is an opportunistic investor who's probably looking for something like a ground up development, because they're willing to do the work, they're willing to take the extra risk, they want a very high return, right? So that is one way to look at it. But if you want to, consolidate them, people say, yeah, I want to buy a stabilized property, meaning that, what that's telling you is that they don't want to do a lot of work, right? And then there are people that say, I want to buy a value add property, which is properties that need some work, some renovations, some operational improvements, and so forth. So the more work you do, the more risk you take, you expect to get paid more. You expect to get more return. That's how it is. But there are investors that are, looking for stabilized properties and good assets, and there are investors that are looking for fixer-uppers. So you have to decide which kind of investors you like to work with, right? And and for your own investment also, like a lot of us invest in value-add properties because we believe, that is the highest return, but it also brings some.
Right, and you reduce your how can you reduce your risks when you want to do a deal that is value added? Do you partner with more people? What are those strategies to reduce those risks?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you have more partners so that risk is distributed. So not one person is taking all the risk. So not only from an investment perspective, from an operational perspective, also you may want to partner. This is more for investors. So that way, so you're bringing 2 or 3 people who have different skill sets coming together and operating a business together, right? So that everybody brings more expertise onto the table. So that is one way you can, minimize some of the risks. So more people are looking at a deal, more people are scrutinizing it, right? So that's what investors do. Now, from a financial perspective, yes, the bigger the deal, the more investors in the deal, then the risk is diluted, right? Meaning that not one person is taking a huge risk, everybody's taking a small piece of that risk, right? So as agents, the number one thing is to find out, what kind of investor or investment group you're working with, and then help them strategize on what's the right property for them, what's the right location, right size. And there's a little bit more involved with how they are raising money for the deal and stuff like that. So those are things that you do, because most of the time investors know where the financing is going to come from. So that's part of qualifying your client to make sure that they have the financial means to take down a property that they want. But if you want to be successful as an agent, my recommendation, and this is not my recommendation, this is every successful person knows this, you find listings, right? You focus on listings, and your business will be much better than working with investors and buyers alone.
Right. So in order to find those listings, and how can, as a new agent, how can I identify emerging markets or up and oncoming areas for multifamily investment?
Yeah, so great question. So every market is not good. So you have to look at, again, you're trying to find a match between what is your investment criteria and where you can find these properties. Now, a lot of us think that Texas is a greater market compared to California, but a lot of people like to invest in California, right? Because either they live there or they think the appreciation will be higher in California, even though they're getting a less return today, they may be looking for future appreciation, right? So the key is to find a match between those two. And when you're looking at emerging markets, the most of the stuff, you have to just use common sense, right? To say, what's the number one, multifamily is for people to live, right? For people to live, you're looking for number one, where is the population growth, right? Which cities are growing population wise, and which cities, and which cities will grow with population when in correlation to increase in jobs. So if there's more jobs in a town, there's more population, that's more demand for housing. So that puts demand for multifamily. So you're looking mainly for population growth, you're looking for job growth, and then also don't forget the crime, right? If the crime is too high, then it's not a good place to invest. You want to look at the crime, and certainly you also want to look at the government policies, right? If you are a landlord-friendly state, or if you are a business-friendly state, it's a little bit easier to do business in some of those states compared. And then you can dive deep, go into different markets, and see what is so we look at a lot of different things like supply and demand, right? It's all supply and demand. We look at what is the vacancy rate in a specific market, what is the absorption rate, what is the new construction activity. So a lot of different things that you look at to figure out what is the right market for you to work in.